Okay, I've got a burning question for you. Burning question. Now, and I've heard a lot of varying opinions from different people, but I put this to you. Is rent to rent dead?
Great assertion. Well, if HMOs are alive, because I'm talking about rent-to-rent HMOs,
Yeah.
until as long as HMOs are alive, then rent-to-rent is alive.
Hello guys, hope everybody's okay. This is Property Convos, and we're back with another journey in my car, my virtual car of course. Today I've got in my car a very special guest. She is the co-founder of HMO Heaven and Rent to Rent Success, and she's doing amazing things in property, and I'm so glad that I've got her on the show today. This is Stephanie. Hi Stephanie, how are you doing?
Hey Balaji, I am glad to be in your car.
We're going for a nice little drive. Drive. All right, let me turn the music down. That was just like an intro music. But yeah, it's really good to have you, Stephanie. So yeah, I mean, how are you doing? How's your day been?
Great to be here. My day's been good. We have been sunning it up over here in Wales. It's been hot today.
It's hot in Wales as well, yeah?
Yeah.
It's been crazy over here. We have to get the fan. We have a fan in the loft because we kept it there for storage. And then now I had to kind of like climb up the loft. My wife had to pull me by my feet and get it down because we were basically drowning in our own sweat puddles. So,
yeah. It's not often we have that problem here, is it?
No, exactly. So can't complain too much.
No.
But so I am so happy to have you on the show, and I'm not even sure where to start because you've got so much experience. But it would be great if maybe we started off with just a bit about your background and let people know what do you do, how did you start in property. Let's take a walk down memory lane and see how you're doing.
Yeah, Balaji, you know what? I love going down memory lane because it just reminds me sometimes. I'm like, how did I get here?
Exactly.
Because I used to watch, not necessarily shows like this, but I used to watch other people and think that what they were doing was like so far removed and something that I would never be able to do. And like people, how do people get property portfolios?
Mm-hmm.
Seeming those can't be like normal people. And so 4 years ago I was working, I always want to say I was working as a waitress in the cocktail bar when it comes to that.
Child
of the 80s, you see.
Right.
That's the lyrics. Oh, you did you recognize the lyrics?
It didn't get to me now, I've got to be honest. I was going to blag it and say yes, but no.
When you're the 80s.
I am a child of the 80s as well.
Yeah. So it's, you are? Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was working as a contractor in a bank and my mum got ill and I just realized I need to be able to live differently because I wouldn't be able to be there for her in Birmingham.
Yeah.
She needed me. And that was the sort of push that I needed to think, what else can I do? How could I do things differently? And that's where I started looking at property a little bit more. And you probably, or have you had this experience where you start going to the networking events and you're like, what?
It's interesting. It's not always the crowd that I expected to see. And there's just a lot of like buzz and information overload. But yeah, I've experienced that too. Yeah.
But it's what I was blown away with was the strategies that people were using and, starting out, from where I was coming just from a corporate job and then suddenly they're making so much money and building so much assets without working. And I was just totally blown away by that was possible. It should be obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me before fairly recently.
I went through the same thing. It makes you want to think, am I an idiot? Why didn't I think of this, like years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm glad we're here now anyway, at least.
Yeah.
So talk us through what else happened. What's the next steps?
Grateful every day, Balaji. I just am so grateful because I could still be, 9 to 5ing in a kind of, mediocrely stressful job
Yeah.
in an environment that, I find quite difficult. And now I get to live a life that I feel inspired. I enjoy it. I even enjoy the challenges. But what
Mm.
happened next was I went to the events and I heard people talking about all different strategies. And
Yeah.
each week I'd be like, oh my gosh, that is the one. That's the one. That's what I need to do. That's what I'm going to do. And then I'll go back the following week. And it will be, oh no, that's the
There's
one.
another one. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I went for a few months going to any events that came up in Bristol where I was living at the time. This is
Yeah.
2016. And
Okay.
I eventually, I heard about Rent to Rent and I
Yeah.
saw two guys talk about it and I thought, this is it. This is it. And I'd gone from sort of, the bit where you think that you can't do it to, I can absolutely do this.
Yeah.
This is it. This is the one. I think I can do it and I can do it better than other people that I was seeing doing it at the time.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
that's interesting because like you said there was maybe a turning point moment because I think we all go through that where you start off with that kind of imposter syndrome. It's like, oh, I'm not sure whether this is for me or whether I can do it. But then what was that turning point for you where it was like, okay, you know what, actually it's possible and I can do it. And I think I'm actually going to do it. Like, what was that for you?
Yeah, it was a very mundane thing, an everyday occurrence. That my mum called me one morning. I'm at my flat in Bristol Harbourside, gorgeousnness, and it was a day like today, a really sunny day,
Yeah.
early in the morning, and she was sick at the time, and I was sort of really preoccupied with my presentation that I was doing at work,
Yeah.
and would I get to work on time, and was this going to be a long conversation, etc.
Yeah.
And when I got to work in the afternoon, that's when it hit me. It was like this punch in the belly. It felt really visceral. It felt really physical. And I just thought, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I came to work today. If I had not come to work today, the bank would have just carried on exactly as it was.
Right. Right.
But I was making that, or I was making that the most important thing in my life. Or more important than things that were really important, like my mum, who's only got us. And I thought, I'm living my life that way to fund the lifestyle that I don't have time to enjoy, to go to work. It just didn't add up. And I just thought, if I want to live my values, I need to have a different way of living. And I need to work out what that is. And that made me push past all of the fears and so on that I had.
Yeah.
Getting started. Yeah.
No, that's really cool because everybody needs that sort of thing, that reason that pushes them past, the sort of fear barrier. Because I believe everybody can do pretty much whatever they want to and set their mind out to, but there's always that kind of thing that kind of blocks them. And to get over that, it's the why. Like I was having a chat with some of the guys that I work out with, I do a virtual workout, and we were just talking about how, what pushes somebody to do a marathon, or what pushes somebody to do a physical feat that is like more than what they would normally do. And there's usually a story around, okay, there was maybe a family member that was going through something that you were doing it for them, or maybe there's a charity that you feel very strongly about. And, it's that kind of push that is making you, you don't want to let that person down. And I think whenever we have that reason, it kind of galvanizes our, I think our purpose. And then after that point, it's just, let's do this. You almost forget the person that you were before you had those sort of doubts, right?
Yeah, exactly. It just makes you a different person. Absolutely. So when's the marathon then?
I've talked it up, haven't I? To be honest with you, marathon is something that I've always wanted to do, but let's just say I haven't got that reason just yet, have I? No, I want to do one. It's one of those things on my bucket list, but yes, I'm not there. I've done a half marathon, so I crossed that barrier. I think mentally I can now sort of maybe train.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thanks for putting me on the spot there. But
anytime you want this service, Largy.
Okay, I've got a burning question for you. Burning question. Now, and I've heard a lot of varying opinions from different people, but I put this to you. Is rent to rent dead?
Great assertion. Well, if HMOs are alive, because I'm talking about rent to rent HMOs,
Yeah.
until as long as HMOs are alive, then rent to rent is alive.
Okay.
So let's talk about a couple of things. So we're in this COVID pandemic lockdown, and so people are saying it's now a good time to start. Well, what I find is that in a down market, there's always opportunity. In any market, there's opportunity. In a down market, there's opportunity, but there's more opportunity because there's fewer people looking for opportunity. And of the people who are looking for opportunity, that fewer people can see the opportunity, and then fewer than that even can take the opportunity. And so if you're in the game at all, there's more opportunity for you right now. So what we're finding is that a lot of our stars, our rent-to-rent students, are getting calls back from agents, and now there was double calls and triple calls because actually they need people now. They're struggling and having problems, and the people who can help now can get deals that other people can't get, because a lot of the standard letting agents have furloughed all their staff and are choosing not to operate at the moment. And so if you can operate and provide a service that other people can't provide, then you're always going to be doing well.
Okay, because that makes sense. Because I mean, I've heard a lot about sort of the other aspects to property strategy. So like buying below market value. I do understand the concept of, motivated sellers and people being in distress, wanting to sell, their house for cash quickly, and that being more the case now because of financial trouble. But the thing which I was struggling to get my head around with rent to rent is just like the whole movement of things. So the government was shutting down, movement, but I guess that's open a bit now. But like, how do you reconcile that with success in rent to rent? Like,
I think there were challenges. So the challenges that we were experiencing with rent to rent were that there were two risks. One, that people wouldn't be able to pay their rent, but people have been able to pay their rent because the government's been very forthcoming with the financial support. So we haven't had a problem with people who can't pay their rent. But the issue has been that, a lot of people have moved home. So for us with young professionals, then they might have moved home back to their family, because especially at the start, we really had no idea at all how long this would go on. So where people have moved home, say for example they've moved in and they're on month one of a 6-month contract, then they're liable for the whole 6 months contract. But in this scenario, you're not really going to hold them liable for the remaining 4 or 5 months. So we've had that gap.
So, I mean, if I was going to just say to your point, like if mortgage providers can give a break in sort of mortgage payments, then it's not so far-fetched for landlords to maybe do that too, or is that not like...
Well, no, there's no such thing as the mortgage holiday. You've come up with a good point here, Balaji. Mortgage holiday is a myth.
Is it a myth? Okay. Break it down for me then.
So basically you get a break from paying for 3 months, but you still owe 3 months mortgage, and plus the additional interest on it, because now you've got interest accruing from now if you're not paying. So in the end of it, you end up paying more.
But I take your point, but like how bad is that really? So credit file impacts aside, the actual amount of money that you're going to be owing extra, or that you're going to be kind of accruing more, it's just 3 months, right? So a mortgage product, how much would you actually accrue in that 3-month time period? Or how much of a bill would you rack up that you'd have to pay back? Because it gets spread.
What I'm saying is,
the rest of your mortgage.
I see what you're saying is that the interest payments are low, the additional interest that you're going to owe, but you're not getting anything, are you?
I guess so.
Because your liability is the same, if not a little bit more. Plus, you've got the negative impact of the fact that because we're all investors and you're looking to then be borrowing in the future, then having a mortgage holiday is going to impact on the decision-making process of the lenders, and that having a mortgage holiday is never going to be a positive. So it will be dependent on your other characteristics, how negative it's going to be for you. But I think you wouldn't be taking a mortgage holiday unless you absolutely
needed it. Yeah,
take a mortgage holiday.
Sounds like entrapment, what you're saying. So it's like, oh, here you go, but I'm going to penalize you for it later on if you apply for
it's the government gave it to the government gave it out, but the lenders are not going to be liking it when they're measuring risk and how likely are you to be able to pay back your loan, and they see that you took a mortgage holiday. They're going to take that into account. So we won't know exactly how, but it's not going to be positive. We know.
Fair enough. Yeah, it will bite you at some point. So would you give the same advice for the bounce back scheme, the bounce back loan?
No, I think the bounce back loan is a fabulous opportunity. I mean, depending on the type of business you have, the impact of coronavirus could be like really, really a lot, or it could be minor. But when else will we get the opportunity to take a loan at such a preferential interest rate, to have the sort of loan where you can apply within 5 minutes, and if you haven't got the money within your bank within a week, then people are saying this is too long, whereas normal financing, it takes much longer than that. So some people were getting their funds within 24 hours. I think it's an absolutely phenomenal scheme. I think the risks are, what are you going to do with that money? Because there's two crucial aspects to it. Is A, how can you make that money make money and be able to service the debt after a year? Because when you need to start repaying it back, just under £900 a month from memory, if you take the whole £500,000, sorry, £50,000.
£50,000, yeah.
I was getting excited there.
Which loan scheme are you talking about? Message me privately after.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to know how you need to have a plan, basically. Yeah. And I think the thing with money is it's all mind skills first. So you have to have the mind skills whereby that you can harness that money, take that money and make more money. As property investors, that's one of the skills that we need to have. I'm talking to you,
really, isn't it? Yeah.
As somebody who 4 years ago was working in the bank and drawing a salary. Well, I was a contractor, so I had a limited company, but let's call it was like a job because I was the only person in the limited company. So I've now moved to doing this. So over that period, I've had to grow my brain quite a lot, because what seemed like a lot of money back in the day no longer seems like a lot of money.
Of course.
So
that's really cool. So you touched on corporate and then not being in corporate. At what point did you transition? Because you said you started in 2016, and at that point you were contracting, working in corporate. At what point, what was the strategy that you kind of took on that allowed you to say, okay, you know what, I can now make the complete jump? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see you later, boss.
So
and did you angry quit?
Did I what?
Did you angry quit? Do you know
No.
Okay.
That would have been good though. I love those stories. I love those stories. But
Jeff, I never liked you anyway.
Yeah.
Susie, you smell.
Yeah. Exactly. Now I want to go back. But I was on the contract, remember? So the last contract I had before I left was I actually really liked. I really liked the people I was working with. Some of the other contracts, different story. But so I was working on this contract, and at the beginning of the year, I started going to all the beginning of 2016, January. Like a lot of people, I thought, right, I'm going to start going, and my contract was ending in June, but I was offered one to extend until the end of the year.
Right.
And I was iffing and butting about whether to do it. I could hardly concentrate at work because my mind was on property. I had one of these apps, Wonderlist, where I had a list of everything to do with the business, setting up a limited company, calling agents, all of the different things I was doing. I was listening to property podcasts like an obsessed person. I was going to property events in the evening. My mind was always on property, and I thought it would take us quite a long time to find the first one. And I was going across to Newport to look at the properties on the weekend, and I'd gone over one Saturday, and we'd seen well, it's quite a convoluted story, but cut the long story. We went to view two properties with an agent and the owner of the property, and we turned up and we had I actually had a clipboard and was writing. I was saying to Nikki, oh yes, we definitely changed the floor. Yes. And when you're really over enthusiastic and don't know what things cost. So the landlord must have been quite bemused by all this, and he confided afterwards that he didn't think we'd last. He thought we were well-meaning, but he didn't think we'd last. He thought we were too nice for HMO life.
For the game, yeah.
And so we got that property, and it was a tenant find only on the letting agent's behalf.
Okay.
And so we were direct with the landlord, and we're still with that landlord. He originally we asked for 5 years, but he originally gave us 3. To test this out, sort of thing, and he's since then committed for another 5 years, so we've got those properties for 8 years.
Nice.
So that was how it started.
Right. It's good to know you're still with your first one, right? And if you don't mind me asking, because I know this is probably getting into the realm of what you would say in Rent to Rent Success, so any questions you don't want to answer, it's fine, but how did you convince that landlord to give you that property?
Yeah, well, there are 2 parts to it, so I'll give you both parts. So the first one was convincing the letting agent. So I came over from Bristol to Newport for this viewing on a Saturday, and I'd been out on 3 viewings with another agent, but that hadn't ended badly. I think I'd said something silly like, oh no, I don't want you to manage them, which obviously
okay.
Rookie mistakes, rookie errors. But I hadn't handled it, the whole thing very well. So she wasn't interested in working with me. So I kind of felt a little bit shaken after that one. And I was then in the Newport Town Centre, where they have quite a few of the letting agencies all there, nearby. And so I was standing in the high street thinking, no, don't bother. They're not going to speak to you. And then I just had a word with myself and said, you know what, go in there, because you have to start somewhere.
Give yourself a pep talk.
I gave myself a pep talk. I did.
Yeah.
And I went in, and it was the manager in. And I said in a very strangled cat voice, have you got any HMOs? She said, we don't do subletting. And I said, I said, it is all kosher. I didn't use that word. And she said, oh no. She says, we've got an HQ headquarters, and they wouldn't allow that, and they don't like this.
Right.
That. And I don't know where it came from, but I just said, oh, have you got any tenant find only landlords who might consider us? Because as you don't know us yet, maybe you would consider us for them. And then when you see what we do for them, you might be prepared to work with us in a sandwich.
Yeah.
She must have thought about it for a second. And then she started shuggling me across. They had these big screens, with the properties on them. And she showed me 2, and they were on the same street, and we booked a viewing in. And those were our first 2 properties.
Oh, wow.
Tenant find only.
So tenant find only, are you able to break down what that means for someone who
so there's 2 ways that letting agents typically work, which is, one of them is tenant find only. Now, a letting agent wants recurring revenue. So they want to get paid their commission every month. So tenant find only is a less satisfying model for them because they only get paid once for finding the tenant. The landlord pays them for finding the tenant.
Yeah.
And then the landlord takes things over from there. So that's tenant find only. And the other one is the fully managed, whereby the agent manages the property, gets paid the rent, and pays part of it to the landlord.
Okay.
And that
makes sense.
The strength of their business relies on how many properties they've got on fully managed. And that's why some agents don't want to work with rent-to-renters, because they think, if I work with a rent-to-renter, they might take my landlord.
They're going to take my, yeah.
And then that's ruining my business.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's really, really, really interesting. Another question I had was, so of course now you're a veteran and expert in rent to rent, and you have your own sort of training program, which we'll talk about in a second. But how did you, because you know it all now, but how did you learn it in the first place? You know, where did you get your information from? And
Yeah, I went on a day's training as well and just got the overview. I like to have the overview as well. And I kind of obviously did what people do. I looked on YouTube and, did I even look on YouTube? I don't think YouTube was as popular. Okay. This was only 2016. I'm not sure I was fully into YouTube, but I was certainly Googling, finding out info, going to these events, listening to podcasts, working out what I could, trying to piece things together. But I also went on a day's training just to get the whole overview of it. And even then, we still had no idea what we were doing, because I think it's like preparing to be a parent until that baby.
There's no training. I'm still, there's no training. No.
Yeah. So once you start doing it, then so you think, okay, I see. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. All right, so just a few more bits, because I know we don't want to spend too much of your time, but can you tell us what else you're doing in property? Anything you'd like us to know? So aside from rent to rent, I know you've got a few things going on. What kind of things would you like to share about what you've got going on?
Yeah, the things that I love. So beyond rent to rent's a great way to start for cash flow. But for most people, that would be the first step, cash flow, and then the ultimate aim is to buy your own assets and to create long-term wealth. And that freedom that comes from that, having your money make money. So with rent to rent, you only need, like, say the average one is 500 a month. You only need 3 to 5 is the average to replace an average UK salary. So we've got just over 20, and we've got a member of staff who manages all of that for us. And so the other things that we do, we started buying properties. So we've got a mix of commercial units, self-contained units. The thing I love is multi-unit blocks, which we got into by accident. We've got three blocks now, and the biggest ones are 12 units. And I'll just give you some headline numbers as to why I love multi-unit blocks. And it's that property is, Londoners, please don't fall off your chairs, but they're 32k, under £32,000 per unit. Each unit, the rental is between £400 and £650 per month per unit. And when you buy 12 properties, normally each unit would cost you more for a start. Even in the valleys of Wales, it might be 50k, and then you've got all your buying costs and everything like that. But
so it's like buying in bulk. You're getting sort of like a bulk discount.
Exactly. And there are all sorts of opportunities there, because it's a commercial lending. Fewer people can do that. Fewer competition to buy the properties. The entry point is quite low, because you could buy one on one title, 3 flats on one title, 4 flats on one title, 5 flats on one title. That's a conversion that's already been done. You've got lower conversion costs, because often the conversion costs can be sky high because of all the building regs.
I'm rubbing my fingers. This is really interesting, this.
And for people who you could always start off with a multi-unit block, live in one of the units, have the other, and then move on from there.
Mm. That's a good strategy there. Okay, so I can see how that kind of project would be interesting to you. And considering where you are on your journey to where you started, like what is it that you actually love about property? Because you've probably seen all sides of it now. So like what are the bits that you absolutely love? You know,
I love the transformation,
yeah,
in every sense of the word. I love the transformation. You're transforming the buildings. You're making something out of nothing. Being in business is making something out of nothing. It's turning an idea into a reality. It's delivering value, and property is doing that in a physical way. Like you're taking a sort of distressed asset often and turning it into something that's really really attractive, really viable for people to move into. And the other transformation is you have to transform yourself from who you were before to, you have to constantly keep stepping into new potential.
right.
And for me, I find my life is much more exciting because I'm constantly trying to stretch myself. And some people say to me, they don't want to burn out or they don't want to burn themselves out. But I feel like I've spent so much of my life not stepping up to potential,
Right.
on, autopilot, lounging through life, if you will, that
Yeah.
I've got so much energy to put
Yeah.
into this
You've got
that,
reserves to burn. Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
I get
yes,
that. I fully get that.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, this is like joy. I
Mm.
love doing it and I love helping other people to do it because I like you said earlier, you wonder where you've been when all of this was there for you all
Yeah.
along and you
Yeah.
were totally blind to it. I was totally blind to it. And
Yeah.
now to step into it, I want to say to everybody, look, it's over here.
This is it.
Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Are you a fan of, did you ever watch The Matrix, that film?
Yes.
Red
Yeah.
pill, blue pill. It's like you've taken I can't remember which pill it was, but it was the pill that kind of opens your eyes to the real world. And, you want
Yeah.
everybody else to kind of see that as well.
Yeah.
But an interesting sort of tidbit about that film is once you see the real world, it comes with all of the problems of that world as well that you have to overcome, but at least you're living in reality. So on that note, what are some of the pitfalls that you might have experienced in property? Because I know it can't have always been like up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's, what are the pitfalls? Um, I think they're the ones that people often ask me about. So they say to me, what about if something goes wrong? What about if I have a bad tenant? Well,
Yeah.
something will go wrong and you probably will have a bad tenant.
Yeah.
And but how to get over pitfalls is just to know that they're just they're just something that happens on the way,
Yeah.
because people forget that the other pitfall is you just going to work every day until you
Yeah.
retire,
Yeah.
or that you
Yeah.
get made redundant on a whim, or that your job changes or its location changes,
Mm-hmm.
or there are so many things that can happen in life, whether you take the ball, but whether you're taking the reins or whether you're letting somebody else drive.
Drive.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you may as well drive and take the reins and
Yeah.
learn the challenges, because the thing about problems is that when you first start, everything seems like a level 10 problem. Like the
Mm.
little things and the big things seem like a massive problem. But
Yeah.
then as you go along, for me now, rent-to-rent problems are small.
You know how to
Um,
deal with them. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
other problems like how to buy, bigger units, how to do a development,
Yeah.
even how to harness our bounce back loan in the best
Mm.
way. These
Yeah.
are all
Yeah.
things that I need to think about and that we
Yeah.
need to impact in our business. So you're constantly growing and
Mm.
solving problems. That's what being a business person is about.
Absolutely. And you talked about, because that kind of links to what you were saying before about transformation of yourself. Like if you had continued working in corporate, of course, there's levels that you could have reached, but to a certain degree, the level that are reaching or have reached through your property endeavor is much higher, because ultimately you're operating as the CEO of your own kind of like empire. So there are certain considerations and learnings and thresholds that you're having to sort of break through that maybe one might never have gotten to on a corporate level, just because some of those things are reserved for board level or like whatever. But like that's essentially your life now. So you're always operating at a high level. So that is one of the benefits of taking that jump, and the trade-off between pitfalls versus smooth sailing. And then another thing on the pitfalls is when we spoke the other day, something that you said really resonated with me about so rent to rent, in the COVID period, there could be a bit of a down, and some people might have short-term thinkers might have sort of panicked and said, oh, it's all going to pot, I'm going to get out. But you went into the rent to rent or just the property game, business with a long-term view anyway. So let's say your view was, 5-10 years. What we're experiencing now is like a blip, right? So, and that the blip might go down, but in terms of trend, and if you can kind of still keep your mind on like the trend of things, it will trend positive, and it's just kind of like keeping your head focused on that sort of long-term thing.
Yeah. Totally.
So I definitely took that away from that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've talked a lot about property, but because this is a car-themed kind of show, we're on a journey. I've got a question for you, Stephanie. If you could have, I'm sure you can have, but like, what's your dream car?
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah. So I'm one of those strange people who's not really into cars.
Right? Okay.
But I do fancy a Tesla, but I haven't really investigated them fully. But I've seen some, but I'm not sure what all the models are called. So but that's where
Model T? I don't know either.
Yeah. So that's where I would be going.
Okay. All right, let me give you a different one in terms of dream things. Being in a property game, describe what your dream house would be. You might be living in it right now.
Yeah.
And then you could just describe that. But if you're not, what is your dream house?
Yeah. So I've got actually two. I really like being up high. So I would be in a penthouse suite. It would have
surveying your kingdom.
Yeah, a lot of glass, a huge balcony. I like just light, fabulous light, wooden floors, fully tiled bathrooms, and in a city. But then my other home would be on a lake, and again, it's lots of wood, lots of light, fantastic views, a bit more countryside. So I've got two.
Nice. I like that. Very tasteful. All right, next question. Kind of work related. What are the technology tools that you sort of love and that you run your business with? What are the ones that you can't do without? Name me a few.
Yeah, so I think you really need to have, for your property management business, you need to have a property management software. I mean, spreadsheets are not cutting it, especially if you want to outsource and be able to manage your properties from anywhere in the world, and you want everything to be up to date. I personally. So we've been using Arthur property management software.
Okay.
That is quite a complex software, but we've been using it for a while and all our systems are on it, and that's what Luke uses. So, but I think the other one, GoTenant, is very much more user-friendly interface.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Arthur and GoTenant. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be sure to check that out. Then another sort of lighthearted question: what are you listening to in Spotify right now? Or what your music thing is right now,
Okay, so I'm a podcast maniac. I used to listen to music on the radio and stuff like that, and now I'm always on podcasts. And the one I've been listening to recently is Tears of Freedom, Jason Greystone's podcast.
Okay.
Which is all about how to... I love the way that he used the concept of buying back your time, and it's about investing and trading. I'm not really going to be into trading, but I am going to get into long-term stocks holding. At the moment, all our money we're putting into property.
Yeah.
And we're just restructuring things to look at how we can use our pension to further invest in property, but with my own savings and so on, I want to also invest in stocks long term. That's
Stocks.
something
Yeah.
I haven't done as yet, and I like Jason's concepts within that podcast.
Oh, very interesting. So you don't listen to music?
Well, I do. I'm kind of old school.
Yeah.
The only one that's coming into my mind right now, which I have to sing, is, oh dear, you're down with OPP. Yeah, you know me.
You know me. I don't know.
With OPP, other people's property.
There you go. There you go. Nice little spin on it.
We're all sit down with our own property as well.
Yeah. No, that's a good one, actually. That's a really good one. Okay, so I guess closing off, and thanks for your time, Stephanie. It's been a really good chat, but could you tell us a little bit about your property training business and how someone can get involved? Because I know you do a lot of good teaching on rent to rent and how to get into that business. How can people, get involved in that, and how can they find you?
Yeah, well, if people are interested in that, they should go to renttoRentSuccess.com. It's with the number
Okay.
2.
Yeah.
And on there, they can download the free guide and free masterclass that walks you through the fundamentals, what rent to rent's about,
Yeah.
and also we've got a YouTube channel, Rent to Rent Success. We've got a Facebook group, Rent to Rent Success Secrets. So you can hang out with us. You can watch us on YouTube. We're going to be launching a podcast soon, so watch out for that.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So really, it's just, yes, you can get started in property with little money. And rent to rent's one way of doing that. For some people, the right way would be to attract investment. To work with, other people's money and to buy properties, and other people like to start like we did in managing other people's property, generating your own cash flow and then taking it from there on to the next level.
Awesome. Cool. So thank you so much, Stephanie. It's been a great chat. I'm sure anybody who's listening back to this will gain a lot of nuggets. It's been a pleasure having you on, and I hope you have a great evening. And
thank
take
you.
care. We'll speak to you very soon.
Thanks.